The most impossible and most explosive return in wrestling history just happened, and when Jon Moxley walked through the curtain and came face to face with CM Punk on WWE Raw, it wasn't just two former Shield brothers reuniting, it was the collision of two egos, two philosophies, and two men who represent completely different visions of what professional wrestling should be. What Moxley said to Punk's face in that ring wasn't a friendly reunion or a nostalgic moment, it was a challenge, a threat, and a declaration that everything Punk represents about doing things the right way is wrong, outdated, and about to be violently corrected. By the time I break down how Moxley's return happened without anyone knowing what he said that left Punk speechless, why this confrontation represents the most important ideological battle in wrestling, and where this rivalry goes from here, you're going to understand why this moment might be the biggest game-changer WWE has pulled off in decades. Let me start with the shock of Moxley even being in WWE, because this seemed impossible just weeks ago. Jon Moxley has been AEW's top star, their ace, the wrestler who represents everything AEW stands for. The idea of Moxley returning to WWE, the company he left with such public frustration and criticism, seemed like fantasy booking that would never actually happen. But wrestling is full of never say never moments, and Moxley's WWE return is the ultimate example of how business, money, and the desire to create moments can overcome even the deepest philosophical differences. The secrecy around Moxley's return was unprecedented. Nobody leaked it. No wrestling journalists reported it. Social media had zero hints. WWE and Moxley kept this so quiet that even most WWE employees didn't know until Moxley actually appeared. That level of operational security is rare in modern wrestling, where everything leaks, and it made the surprise genuinely shocking rather than something fans half expected because of rumors. The return itself happened during a CM Punk segment where Punk was cutting a promo about being the best in the world and representing what wrestling should be: technical excellence, storytelling, respecting the business. Standard Punk content that the crowd was eating up. Then the lights went out. Not flickering, completely dark. When they came back on, Jon Moxley was standing on the entrance ramp in his signature look leather jacket, wild hair, that intensity that says violence is about to happen. The crowd reaction was deafening, a mix of shock, excitement, confusion, and pure chaos as 15,000 people tried to process what they were seeing. Jon Moxley, in WWE, on Raw, standing there like he never left, but also completely different from the Dean Ambrose character WWE fans remember. This was Moxley, the deathmatch king, the violence artist, the man who represents everything raw and unfiltered about professional wrestling. Moxley walked to the ring with purpose, never taking his eyes off Punk. Punk's expression was complex surprise, confusion, maybe some concern about what Moxley's presence means. They have history together from their time in WWE, but they've been on such different paths since then that nobody knew what their dynamic would be now that they're in the same space again. Moxley got in the ring, got right in Punk's face, and grabbed a microphone. What he said next is going to be quoted and debated for years. CM Punk, the best in the world, the voice of the voiceless, the man who supposedly changed wrestling. You know what I've been doing while you've been here playing politics and cutting promos about respect and legacy? I've been fighting. Real fights. Brutal fights. The kind of violence you can't even imagine because you're too busy worrying about your image and your brand and whether people think you're cool. The crowd didn't know whether to cheer or boo because Moxley was technically insulting a beloved babyface, but doing it with such conviction and authenticity that it felt real rather than scripted. Punk's expression darkened, clearly not happy with being called out this way by someone he used to consider a brother. Moxley continued, "You and I were in the Shield together. Brothers, supposedly. We conquered WWE together. But you know what the difference between us is? When you got fed up with WWE, you quit. You went home. You pouted for 7 years talking about how much the wrestling business wronged you. Me? I left and I went out and proved myself everywhere else. Japan, Indies, AEW. I didn't sit around complaining about WWE. I went and showed the world that Dean Ambrose was just a character, but Jon Moxley is real." That distinction between Dean Ambrose and Jon Moxley was important because it established that Moxley views his WWE past as a limited version of himself, and the person standing in that ring now is the complete, unfiltered version that WWE never allowed to fully exist. That's not just promo work, that's Moxley rewriting the narrative about his entire career arc, and now you're back here, acting like you're the standard bearer for what wrestling should be? Punk, you're soft. You're corporate. You're everything I fought against when I left this place. You think having great matches and cutting clever promos makes you special? I've been having great matches in death matches, in unsanctioned violence, in matches where real blood gets spilled and real consequences exist. Your version of wrestling is safe and sanitized. Mine is dangerous and real. And now that I'm back in WWE, I'm going to show everyone, including you, what wrestling should be. CM Punk's response was intense and showed that Moxley's words had gotten under his skin. "Jon, everything you just said proves that you don't understand what wrestling actually is. Wrestling isn't just about violence and blood. It's about storytelling. It's about psychology. It's about making people care about the outcome, not just shocking them with brutality. What you do is impressive, sure. But it's not wrestling. It's shock value. It's circus acts. And if you think coming here and questioning my legacy while building your brand on death matches makes you superior to me, then you're delusional. That response dismissing Moxley's style as not real wrestling was gasoline on fire. Moxley's expression turned even more dangerous, not real wrestling? I've wrestled on every continent. I've main event Tokyo Dome. I've carried a company on my back. And you're going to tell me what real wrestling is? The difference between us, Punk, is that I don't need WWE's approval to know I'm the best. I don't need their platform to prove my worth. I proved it everywhere else first, and now I'm here to take what's mine. And if you're going to stand in my way, then we settle this the way it should be settled in a fight where all your clever words don't matter and it's just about who's the better fighter. The challenge was clear and unmistakable. Moxley wasn't interested in a lengthy rivalry build with promos and segments. He wanted a fight with Punk, and he wanted it to be as brutal and definitive as possible. That directness is classic Moxley. No games, no politics, just violence to resolve conflict. The segment ended with security and officials separating them before things got physical, but the message was sent: Jon Moxley is back in WWE, he's targeting CM Punk, and this is going to be an ideological war about what wrestling should be. Punk's technical, storytelling-focused approach versus Moxley's raw, violent, unfiltered style. Now let's break down the implications. For WWE, having Jon Moxley back is massive for business and credibility. Moxley leaving WWE and succeeding elsewhere made WWE look bad. It suggested that creative frustration could drive away top talent who would thrive once freed from WWE's system. Moxley returning suggests WWE has changed, or at least that they're willing to give Moxley the creative freedom he needs to be the character he wants to be. That's significant for how WWE is perceived by talent and fans. For CM Punk, this confrontation challenges everything he represents. Punk's entire character is built on being the best and representing wrestling done right. Moxley is questioning both of those premises and offering a completely different definition of what right means. That philosophical challenge forces Punk to defend his approach and prove that technical wrestling and storytelling can beat Moxley's brutal violence. For Jon Moxley, returning to WWE and immediately targeting Punk establishes that he's not here to gradually work his way up or earn respect. He's here to take what he wants from the person he views as the biggest obstacle. That aggressive approach positions Moxley as a threat to everyone on Raw, because if he's willing to go after Punk immediately, nobody is safe from his violence. The match between them will be fascinating because of their contrasting styles. Punk's technical wrestling and storytelling versus Moxley's brawling and brutality creates natural drama about which approach is more effective. The match needs a stipulation that allows Moxley to be violent while also giving Punk opportunities to showcase his skills. Maybe no disqualification? Street fight? Something that splits the difference between both of their strengths. What Jon Moxley did by returning to WWE and immediately confronting CM Punk wasn't just creating a feud, it was starting an ideological war about what professional wrestling should be. Whether you side with Punk's technical excellence or Moxley's brutal violence, whether you're excited about their history colliding in 2025 or worried about how this affects both brands, one thing is certain: wrestling just got infinitely more dangerous, unpredictable, and must-see, because Jon Moxley is back in WWE with unfinished business and CM Punk standing directly in his path.